I've had many reviews on Amazon where people have said the good guys win. That's why I'm bringing that up, because I think people want to see the good guys win. Now, you can make the good guys whoever you want to be. If you want to make the most despicable, scummy guy in the face of the hero of your book, that's fine, but if people can't identify with your hero, they're also not really going to care too much about it. Whoever does also that really great, I'm rereading the series, and he shows the bad guys. You know, the military likes to use that term, bad guys, but to them, they're the good guys, and their plan is the one that should work. He shows his bad guys as people that are working towards a certain goal that they believe in, and that they are really working hard and sacrificing hard to get there. You may not like their goal, but he puts them up like these aren't just like this implacable Darth Vader-like enemy that's totally evil. It's like, they're just regular people. They've got a different goal than us, which is really, if you study history, a lot of that is how it works. So I'd say the next thing, after you develop your world, your religions, a great way to develop religions is to read books on our world religions and all that stuff. Another thing, steal anything you want. Seriously. If I want to write a book about three kids going through a mirror or a fantasy land fighting a witch, I can do that, and the people that own the estate for Narnia can't do anything about it because that's an idea. If I call it Narnia, I'm really screwed. I can't steal the name of characters, but you can take ideas. In fact, I think of writing as like music. If you ever listen to music, a lot of musicians take stuff from this guy and they blend them together. And you hear the same old riffs on the guitars, but it's with a different backbeat and a different, piano overlay. So take what you want and mix them together and make something new. I've had other people say they thought my Exodus series reminded them a lot of Lever, but it was also really my own. I said, yeah, I did take some of his ideas because they're good ideas. I mean, it doesn't make sense to take something and say, well, that's a great idea, but I won't use it because it's been used before. Even though people will get on you about that. It's something that you can go on your own, especially independent author. You're going to get some trolls. I've had people say, I can see why you haven't been published. Well, what have you written? I use powered armor. Everyone know what powered armor is? In science fiction, it's a very old idea. It's where you have an armored suit that actually moves itself. The person inside, when they move, the suit amplifies the strength of the movement, maybe even the speed. It's invented by Robert Heinlein in Starship Troopers. I use it in my books for everybody. Even the ship's cook gets in powered armor when they're going to battle because it just made sense to them. You're on a spaceship, holes get punched in spaceships. Things go flying through them during a battle. Put your crew in stuff that's going to protect them. Don't put them in red shirts like in Star Trek, where when the hull blows out, they're all flying into space. It just made sense. And somebody said, well, it looks like you stole from Heinlein. And it's like, well, so did Weber, so did John Ringo, so did, I can name a dozen authors that do the same thing, because the idea is a good idea. And it's not something you throw out just because somebody else has already done it. If that's the main premise of your book, you may be on kind of weak ground because other people have already done books, so that was the main premise of the book. But use whatever ideas you want. I have a fantasy series called Tom Clancy and Lord of the Rings. It was like military techno thriller and fantasy combined. And I had the two characters that were supposed to be fighting the dragons, and the one went mad. They're both magicians. They're from Earth, but they got magical power when they came to this world. And someone knows I've got to drive now. Thank you. So, I was going to have them fight the dragons, which, was a normal thing to do. There's a bunch of dragons up there, so let's have them fight it. And then the woman, who's a weather mage and can make tornadoes, goes mad with power and thinks she's a goddess. And just starts throwing tornadoes everywhere, just for the heck of it. The other guy's a fire mage, has to fight her. And everything he throws at her, she ends up being knocked away because she controls the wind in the air. But the book took a completely different direction, and it actually ramped up the tension. in two ways, because they had two characters fighting each other. They were supposed to be friends, and also took them out of the main battle and made it even harder for whoever was still fighting the dragons in their battle. And stuff like that happens all the time. I don't really believe the thing where the characters write the stories by themselves, but a lot of times the characters will derive a certain thing and you just change it.
How deeply do you get into, I guess, from a theatrical, from theater point of view, what does the character want? Wants, obstacles, do you map that out, or do you just let them find out?
Normally I kind of develop that when I'm writing a story. I actually have several main characters. I do the Harry Turtledove kind of thing in my Exodus series. I have lots of characters and stuff around to do that. But I have one character where basically all he wanted was to own land and farm. And he came from a populated planet where you couldn't do that and had an aristocracy. And he moved there with his wife and they were going to have a baby, and he was farming this land on another planet. I really had to fool around with my rules a lot and make farming still a viable occupation 2,000 years from now. I had to fool around a lot of stuff to make sure that people weren't immortal because I'm feeling mortality and fitting with what I wanted the story to have. So he just wants, and he's a total screw up. He's in the militia and he's a total screw up because he doesn't want to be in the militia. And the alien power that has been tracking mankind down for centuries finally hits. Land on planet. His wife gets killed. The world gets almost destroyed. And he was a hunt master on his other planet. His dad used to lead hunts with. This is where some of your background stuff comes in. Dad used to lead hunts for noblemen on New Detroit, which is the planet he came from. And so he went with Dad out hunting these wild animals, which are really big and dangerous compared to what we have. And so his wife gets killed, and suddenly he switches from this guy who just wants to be left alone, just wants to have a farm and raise a family, till his one driving goal is he wants to kill these son of bitches now. And he becomes like the best soldier ever. Which doesn't mean he always does everything right, because a lot of times, because he wants to be the one pulling the trigger, even though he becomes an officer, he does the wrong thing. But his motivation switches mid-term. But then I have another book where he actually finds somebody else and falls in love, and he still has the baby from his first wife, and now has a family. The main character in the book is the emperor whose father and brothers are killed off in an assassination attempt, and he does not want to be the emperor. He's not prepared for it. He just wants to be a naval officer. So when he's the emperor, and he has all these great ideas on how he's going to run everything. In the first 3 books, everything he puts his hands on basically screws up. And he has to learn how to delegate and listen to people. And he's a genius, and he's a military genius, but he has to know how to listen to other people and make their suggestions. People know more than him. So his motivation basically was, I don't want anything to do with ruling this government. But suddenly there he is. And he's the dude now, and there's no way he can get out of it. And he's got to become the best at it he can. I still get letters from fans sometimes saying you kind of contradict yourself and stuff. But I was trained as a psychologist, and people kind of contradict themselves and stuff. There's a lot of contradiction. I think if you got a character that they're just one straight motivation all the way through, you're not really drawing a real person. People change what they want from day to day. Mostly there'll be one thing really driving them in there that they really want bad, but as far as what they want right now from day to day is going to change. Things go on. And I don't always say that what I do is the best. I don't know if I'm doing everything the best you can possibly do, that best practice thing, which I ignore a lot of times. But from what I'm getting from reviews, I must be doing it well enough. I get people who say he has great characters that you really love to follow. Of course, I don't get a review where it goes, well, these are cardboard cutouts, so I don't know. The other thing, when you write, you're never going to get 100% satisfaction. I'm doing real well. I'm making a living right now writing, and I'm probably selling to 1/10,000th of a percent of the reading population.
You have done so well with self-publishing. Is it only Amazon that you've gone through?
I started on Amazon and Smashwords. Smashwords was sending out books to Lip and Kobo, Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble's they wouldn't change my price one time. It cost me about almost $600. Because I changed my price on Amazon and I tried to change it to Smashwords and they didn't change it. Amazon found the lower price and lowered my book to the lower price. It was my most popular bookseller at that time. Thing about Amazon is not only are they the biggest, and they're everywhere. I saw a lot of books on Amazon UK. I saw some on Amazon France and Amazon Germany. Not only are they the biggest, but they will really promote your book if you're doing well. It's almost like self-fulfilling prophecy. Once you start doing well, they promote your book. The first time I got an email from Amazon, I opened it up and it had, "You may be interested in it." It had these books, like 10 books listed, 5 were mine. I thought, wow, that's cool. You'll start putting your book out on ads on other pages. I switched totally to Amazon. Most of those I read, you can do free promotions on them. You're totally with Amazon. Now, I did a promotion for this book called The Deep Dark Well and gave away 4,100 copies of it. I've sold 5,500 copies since then. Now, I gave away 3,200 of a book called Shadows of the Multiverse and only sold 1,800. So it doesn't always work. I gave away 1,500 of a vampire book, urban fantasy called The Hunger, which Sam Staley, if y'all know Sam, loved it. He wrote a review of it on Amazon. Everybody just wrote a review that's loved it, but it doesn't sell that much. But then I came out with Exodus, and they just started flying. You know, it was like, I think that giveaway for the Deep Dark Well was what's primed the pump. And then people say, well, the giveaways don't work anymore. Well, last April, I did a giveaway of Exodus 1, which I'd never done before. And I actually was able to go to these sites where you have to have so many reviews, 4-star or above, for them to even promote your book. And it's like, great, I got 150 of them. Here you go. I gave away 4,900 of it. The next month, I sold over 500 copies of every book in the Exodus series, including book 1, which I just given away 4,900 copies of. And book 6 had come out, and I had already sold 2,000 copies in the first 2 weeks. So their giveaways are really a good way of promoting. Now that said, and I don't, you know, I can't say I write the best book in the world, but it must be good enough. But if you don't have a good book out there, I don't care if you give away 10,000 of it. It's not going to do much.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the editing process, but you did mention that in the book about you have to have a good book. What's your pricing strategy?
You know, I started off with a 99-cent thing because that's what I heard. Is sell your book for 99 cents, you'll make $1 million. I think people actually did that when they first started self-publishing. But it stopped. And now people see a 99-cent book and they think this must be crap. And it pisses me off when I buy a book that's advertised as a novel for like $1.99 or $2.99 and you read it, it's 50 pages. That's not a novel. When I was growing up, a novel is at least 50,000, 60,000 words. I tend to think 100,000. But you know, you get a book and it's and some of these one guy was selling these a friend of mine called Notice Rippers, and it's like urban fantasy sex novels. 29 pages for $1.99. He's selling enough to make a living. He puts them out 1 a week. You know, it just keeps going. But I like right now when I first started doing 99 cents, I moved up to $1.99. Then I found out you got 70% royalties at $2.99. I was like, that's $2.99 from now on. I put out a book of a collection of 3 novellas in about a week, and the reason I'm putting out those novellas so I get that $2.99 price range. They couldn't see charging that for one story in the novella. Because even all 3 of them together are not a novel. But you get that 70% price range. Then someone told me, well, don't ever go to $4.99 because no people won't buy a $5 book. So I put one book at $5.29 and it sold very well. But it's also 200,000 words. And when I told that to Kevin J. Anderson at DragonCon when I first met him, he said, why in the world would you ever self-publish a 200,000 word book? You should be putting out 40,000 word novellas for $2.99 and selling them. Novelettes. Novella novelette, I always get confused about. You know, basically, I may start doing that.
So did you think about breaking the book up into a 4-part series or something like that, a continuation, and then charging $2.99 for each one?
That's what I did with the first book. And the problem with that was that the ending of book 1 was not really what I wanted. I mean, it sold a lot of copies, and a lot of people bought book 2, but if I could do it over again, I would have written those as 2 separate books. Now, I'm doing audiobooks on the Exodus series. Book 2 just came out a couple weeks ago, audiobook. They're doing fairly well. Extra money. It's nice to get an extra $500-$600 check every month for not free audiobooks.
Do you do the reading?
No, I hire a company. We do a royalty split. So they have to sell I have to sell 500 books before they really start making a profit, but I'm making a profit from the first day. But book 2 is going to have to be split because it's too long for an audiobook. But then I started doing things for $4.99. It's like once I got the readership and I started getting letters from people, when's book 5 coming out? When's book 6 coming out? When's book 7 coming out? It's like, well, I'm charge $4.99 and see what happens. People bought them.
Why not?
Now they got this thing called Kindle Unlimited where you buy and you read all you want. And that kind of freaked me out when I first read that. I don't want everybody to read my book and I'm only getting 90 cents for it. So book 7 I didn't put on Kindle Unlimited. It still sold 6,000 copies so far. I'm going to go ahead and put it on Kindle Unlimited now. I don't know if I lose sales on Kindle Unlimited, but like one month I had 890 books on Kindle Unlimited. The month I sold 6,000 books. So I think you were next.
The question I had was when you talked about the free promotion. When you give out the freebie books, and you do it on Amazon, then are people able to come back in and leave reviews? Can they leave a review even though it's free?
Yes.
You can leave a review on any book on Amazon.
Even if you haven't bought it?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
They will put on there whether it's a verified purchase or not. But I've reviewed, when I first started off, I was trying to get my name all over the internet. So I reviewed 600 books on Amazon that I never bought on Amazon. I read elsewhere. You can put anything you want on there. Now, I got an email review of my books and gave it 1 star. And he said he read book 1 and gave it 1 star. And then he said, and I didn't even read this book, but I knew it was just as bad. So I put something on Facebook, and some of my British fans contacted Amazon UK, and that thing was down in an hour.
Well,
Because he said, he even admitted, I never read this book.
Right. I thought they couldn't go on Amazon and give me a review for that. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
I think people know what controls are now.
Oh, yeah.
It's starting to become more sophisticated. And if somebody's really just throwing mud at you for no reason, it comes out.
Yeah. I got one review that really, I thought was funny. This some woman had read my Refuge book, and she gave me 2 stars. And said, and every book I've got on there is 4 star or above average. I've got some that are 4.8, 4.9 average. So I might do well on reviews. She put, I didn't like this book. I didn't hate this book. I don't know how I feel about this book. Tell me how you really feel about it. Or somebody gave me 2 stars because the book wasn't her cup of tea. Well, it's not your cup of tea, then why the heck did you buy it? Why are you reviewing it? All you're doing is hurting an author by doing that kind of stuff. But they have the right to do that, and Amazon will not hold them down unless you have a good reason. And some of the reasons, like I have a friend, David Farland, who's a best-selling fantasy writer. I went to his workshop, and I'm doing some stuff with him now on doing press releases. And his brother does press releases, and he had this Amanda Hopkins. His press releases got her over the 1 million sales mark, and he's going to start doing press releases with me. That might help. Farland also talked to the woman who wrote the Twilight series, which I hate Twilight, but just hearing his story, how he told her what to do about it, and it's like, don't worry if people don't like it, you'll find people who will like it. And sure enough, she did. He right now is going after this woman. It's really funny because David's a Mormon, he doesn't cuss, but he cussed when he talked about this one woman. This Mormon writer had written a romance, and this other woman took it and wrote sex scenes into the same book and renamed it, put it out as her book. And then when the woman who originally owned the book came at her, she used cutouts on the internet, like made up people, to attack her on her blog, on her Amazon pages, the post. And then it turned out this one was a school teacher, and she used the name of the kids in her class as the people.
I remember that, I remember that.
And David said he's going to get her. He's going to make sure
I remember,
she
I do remember.
recovers from that. People will try to attack you, and also, I don't know if this has ever happened to me, but some people who are writing and aren't doing so well will attack you just because they don't like that you're doing well and they're not doing well. Why is this guy selling a lot of books and I'm not?
I remember your post on Facebook about you'd gone to a convention and somebody who only wrote, like, was a short story.
Yeah.
And not being a traditional published author.
He told me this guy at the Dragon Con was had sold 3 short stories, which gave him entry into the Science Fiction Writers Association. And I may be the first independent to ever get in there because they're paying me for blogs about independent writing. I think they're trying to change their policy. I'm not sure if I want to join yet, but I may do it just to open the door. But he told me I wasn't a real writer. I was talking to some people about independent writing, about don't give up and this is what you do. And my biggest thing for independent writing is write lots of books because you don't know what's going to take off. I've got one that sold 23,000 now. I've got one that sold 140. So you never know what's going to take off. So you keep writing. And I think the one that sold 140 is just as good as the one that sold 23,000. But it's got one got the audience and the other didn't. He told me that he had sold 3 stories and was a member of Science Fiction Writers Association. I was not a real author because I didn't have any legitimate sales. And I said, well, I guess you're right. I only sold 97,000 books. I made $250,000 the last 2 years and walked away. And I don't think I charge extravagantly for my books. I just sell a lot of them. If you sell a lot of books, you make a lot of money. And the thing is, I have people who are professional, what I call professional writers. I guess I'm a professional writer, so I think that still. But traditionally published writers who sell more books than me and don't make as much money.
Exactly. They don't need them.
They're making 50 cents a copy on royalties. And on a book that's being sold for $12 by their publisher, and I'm selling one for $4.99 and bringing home $3.80 a copy. Yeah.
When you talk about sales, are you only selling ebooks or are you doing hard copies?
I've sold about 1,000 hard copies, about 108,000 new books, and maybe right now about 700 audiobooks. I'm counting all of them together. Audiobooks I just did not think of, but I went to this little alt-con we have here in town, and this guy Ian Malone, who's a writer, he's visually impaired, and reads all his books audio, and he's telling me about doing it. He had a book that's doing really well. It's hit #1 in military science fiction, which I've had several books do that too. That's really a great feeling. But he's doing well. But he told me about audiobooks. He said, audiobooks won't make your living, but he says it's nice getting an extra $500 or $600 check a month for audiobooks because they sell them for like $20-something. And so I'm getting like $8 royalties on it. Well, not really, because the company that did it for me is getting $4, and I'm getting $4 per book. That's extra money. There's nothing wrong with getting extra money. The thing about, y'all ever heard of Hugh Howard? This guy you need to look up. Seriously, Hugh Howard. He has sold over 2 million books. He's an independent.
Can you spell that?
Howey, UHUGH. He has sold over 2 million books as an independent. He did a book called Wool. That was a New York Times bestseller as an independent published book. He is real high on the independent publishing thing. And like he says, in traditional publishing, your book comes out at his Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, and it better sell.
Right away.
Right away, right. If it doesn't sell within the first couple weeks, it's gone. You put a book out, an ebook. I got that book that sold 140 copies so far, and it's still sitting there on the Amazon bookshelf, and it could sit there forever. And if someone, big time reads it and really likes it and writes a review, and it suddenly starts selling, it's there. I don't have to put it back in the bookstores or talk to anybody. It's there. When I come out with a book, and I'm looking. My Exodus series right now, I'm looking at the first 3 months as being my big selling months. Now, in the traditional publishing industry, you better do that in the first 2 or 3 weeks. I'm looking at 3 months. and big seller. And then after that, it slacks down, but you know, I've got books that wouldn't be on the shelf anymore at Barnes & Noble, but they're still selling 20 copies a month, every month. Don't sound like much, but I'm getting $2 or more a book on 20 books every month. And I figured a couple months back, if I do this for 3 or 4 more years and then stop, I don't intend they would stop. I want to keep doing this forever. I want to fall dead writing a book. So have someone else fill in the ending and publish it. But if I do, I have my retirement already set up. You know, I get retirement money coming in constantly from that.
You just bought a house.
Yeah, I just bought a house. I didn't think of, now working for DCF, I wasn't going to buy a house.
Now, I remember when you left Tallahassee, you had a scheduled time you were going to quit, but surprisingly, due to increasing your sales, you ended up quitting sooner than you originally planned. Well, sooner than anybody plans, but,
Yeah.
you know, but official, you had an official
Right.
leave date, but you were what, 6 months earlier?
I told them I was going to leave in the fall. And then that January, I sold 8,900 books. And I was thinking, I don't know if I can sustain these. So I said, I'm going to leave at the end of April. And in February, I sold 5,600 more books. I said, I'll leave in March. It's nice. It's nice. You know, sometimes I got to drive myself. I have to be my own slave driver because I'll sit there and veg out. But it's nice being able to do things on my schedule. If a convention comes up and I have money and I want to go, I go. I don't have to ask the boss, hey, can I have time off? Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, your genre again is military sci-fi?
Military sci-fi is the main genre.
Now, how did you reach, you know, you said you have a very small audience, but you sell a lot of books, so how did you reach that very small
And I say very small compared to the world
Yeah,
population. of
compared to,
readers.
yeah.
If you have 5,000 loyal fans, you can make a living at this. How do I reach them? I really don't know, except for when you hit a certain number of reviews on Amazon, it kind of takes on a life of its own. And I started getting people from, I started getting Facebook friend requests from people from England, from Scotland, from Germany. I have one big fan from Italy, maybe my only fan in Italy. He told me he was going to buy every book I have one day, and I said, oh, yeah, right. And I checked my sales the next day, and every book in Italy I had a 1 next to it. And I go on the pages with people who like the same kind of genre and communicate with them, too, you know. I also don't just go, I'm an author here to sell books. I comment on stuff other people put up.
Exactly.
Facebook is a big one for me. But they'll comment on stuff, and I'll say, yeah, I read that back when I was a kid, and I liked it, or I didn't like it, or this movie was really good, or this movie was really bad. Yeah.
How do you decide, this genre of military science fiction, I've never heard of it before, and I understand that when you're putting a book up, you have to decide what category to fit in. So have you decided that when you market the book, is it marketed as military, or is it marketed as science fiction, or have you created a whole new thing that's military science fiction?
I put it on military science fiction, and I did not create that. David Weber, John Ringo, John Henry, a few other authors really created the military science fiction genre, which basically was, and this is science fiction, but this is going to be about the military. This is not Star Trek. We're not here, you know, to explore this world and not show ourselves. We're here to break things and kill people. For a cause, you know, but basically what the military does. And I put that out as military, and the next thing I know, everybody started calling it space opera. Now, space opera is Star Trek and Star Wars and everything. And I thought, well, no, it's not space opera, it's military science fiction. But it's like, people look it up by space opera, so it works. You know, you get multiple genres you have it put in. This is my second cover in my first book. I wore another shirt that had my first cover at DragonCon last year, not this year. And that's how when I met Kevin J. Anderson, which has turned into like the biggest break in my life. He's got a bestseller. People love him or hate him, but he's a great guy and he really helps people out. And he got me into this 5x5 with Michael Stackpole, who's another military sci-fi bestseller. And these two brothers who won the Prometheus Award, which is for the best science fiction book 3 years ago. And so I'm in there, I'm like the relatively unknown guy, so that all this can do is help me. But he saw my shirt and said, you know, that's a really good cover. And he said, and you've got the perfect keywords there. I didn't know that. So people look up military sci-fi, that's what they're interested in looking at. They look up the words empire and the words war. And the only reason I put those words in there, I was just going to call it Exodus. It was about the human race fleeing an alien race across the galaxy and reestablishing themselves. I took that, you know, from the Bible story, kind of. But I thought, well, people might buy this book thinking it's a Bible story. And they're going to be pissed. So I changed the name a little bit. And I didn't even realize that. And since then, I've learned about keywords and, you know, and if you're going to do a title, look up other titles and make sure yours is different from others. And put the keywords in there that people are going to look up. I just had, you know, I'll tell you, I believe I'm a good writer, I really do. But I've had a lot of things just happen to kind of fall into place the last couple of years that really helped. When I started going to conventions last year, I went to DragonCon last year, and started talking to people there, and I found out about networking. And I've opened up a lot of doors that way. And I've also found out that once you've sold a bunch of books and you start talking to people that listen, it really helps. So if you talk to an agent, go, I'm writing, I'd like to write for y'all. Okay. I like to write for y'all, and I've sold 50,000 books.
That's the difference.
They get some interest. I went to the HonorCon 3 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks now, and I was talking to a guy who did a panel on role-playing games, and he used to work for the company that does Pathfinder, which is a role-playing game, and they also do a series of books. And I played the game, and I said, you know, I'd really like to write for them. And I've written a bunch of books, and he said, well, I can put you in touch with their guy who buys for them. And that's networking. Yeah. And I had to ask. You know, it wasn't like you're not going to sit out there in the crowd, and they're not just going to sit there and go, well, you look like you could write for us. You know, you have to ask them. I asked Kevin Day Anderson if I could be in his anthology. Kind of roundabout. You know, I would really like to put out a story for you. And he already knew about my sales, and he started talking about it, and we, you know, talked about it some more. Eventually, it happened. Here's the thing: when you say new author, it takes time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like I said, the first novel I wrote was awful. I started writing better ones in a few years, but they're still not as good as what I'm writing now. And people say, well, you're getting so much better. And it's like, well, I hope so.